Have you ever felt like you just don't quite fit in? Like you're on the outside looking in, even when you're surrounded by people? It's a strange feeling, isn't it? You might be the person who always has the right answer in a trivia game, or the one who can solve a complex problem at work that leaves everyone else scratching their heads. You might even be the friend everyone comes to for advice because you see things so clearly. But when the work is done, when the advice is given, you find yourself alone with your thoughts, feeling a little disconnected. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone in feeling this way. In fact, it's a surprisingly common experience for people who are considered smart. It's a strange paradox, isn't it? You'd think that having a sharp mind would make it easier to connect with others, to build strong relationships, and to navigate the social world. But for many intelligent people, it can actually be the opposite. They often find themselves feeling a deep sense of loneliness that others might not understand. Now, when I say smart, I'm not just talking about people with genius-level IQs. I'm talking about anyone who is a deep thinker, someone who is highly curious, and who sees the world in a slightly different way. Maybe you're a voracious reader, or you love to lose yourself in complex puzzles. Maybe you're a creative person who is always coming up with new ideas. If you're someone who spends a lot of time in your own head, exploring ideas and making connections that others might miss, then this is for you. So, why is this the case? Why do smart people often feel so lonely? Is there something about having a high level of intelligence that makes it harder to connect with others on a deep and meaningful level? The answer, according to psychology, is a resounding yes. There are several fascinating and complex reasons why this happens, and in this video, we're going to explore them together. We're going to break it down piece by piece, and by the end, you'll have a much better understanding of this common, yet often unspoken, struggle. And hopefully, if you're one of these people, you'll feel a little less alone. One of the biggest reasons smart people often feel lonely is because they perceive and process the world differently. Think about it like this. Imagine you're watching a movie with a group of friends. While everyone else is enjoying the basic plot, you're noticing the subtle foreshadowing, the clever symbolism, and the intricate character development. You're making connections that no one else seems to be picking up on. You try to point it out, but your friends just give you a confused look. They're not seeing the movie on the same level as you. This is what it can be like for a highly intelligent person in everyday conversations. They might be having a casual chat with someone, but their mind is racing, making connections and seeing patterns that the other person isn't. They might try to share these deeper thoughts, but they're often met with blank stares or a quick change of subject. It's not that the other person is unintelligent. It's just that they're operating on a different wavelength. This can be incredibly isolating. Imagine constantly feeling like you have to dumb down your thoughts and ideas just to be understood. It's like speaking a different language and having to constantly translate for everyone around you. After a while, it can become exhausting, and it can make you feel like you can never truly be yourself with anyone. You start to hold back, to keep your more complex thoughts to yourself, and this creates a barrier between you and the rest of the world. Let me give you a real-life example. I once knew a woman named Sarah who was an incredibly gifted architect. She could look at an empty plot of land and envision a breathtaking building in stunning detail. The problem was, when she tried to explain her ideas to clients or even to her own colleagues, she would often get frustrated. She would talk about the interplay of light and shadow, the philosophical principles behind her design choices, and the historical context she was drawing from. Her colleagues, on the other hand, were more focused on the budget and the building codes. They couldn't see the masterpiece she saw in her mind. Sarah often told me that she felt like she was living in a different reality. She longed for someone who could see the world through her eyes, someone who could appreciate the beauty and complexity that she saw everywhere. But most of the time, she felt like she was on her own, a solo artist in a world that just wanted a simple blueprint. This feeling of being misunderstood, of having a rich inner world that you can't share with others, is a major contributor to the loneliness that many smart people experience. Another big reason for this loneliness is that highly intelligent people often have very different priorities and interests than the average person. Think about the things that most people talk about on a daily basis: celebrity gossip, reality TV shows, the latest viral video. For a smart person, these topics can feel incredibly mundane and uninteresting. They're not stimulating. They don't offer any intellectual nourishment. A highly intelligent person is more likely to be interested in deep, meaningful conversations about science, philosophy, art, or politics. They want to explore complex ideas, to debate different perspectives, and to learn something new. But finding people who share these interests can be a real challenge. Imagine going to a party where everyone is talking about a new reality show that you have no interest in. You try to steer the conversation towards a topic that you find more engaging, like a new book you've read or a fascinating documentary you've watched. But you're met with polite smiles and a quick return to the original topic. You start to feel like an outsider, like you don't belong in this social circle. This can lead to a phenomenon known as intellectual isolation. It's the feeling of being surrounded by people, but still feeling completely alone because you can't connect with them on an intellectual level. You crave deep, stimulating conversations, but all you're getting is small talk. Let me tell you about a friend of mine named Mark. Mark is a brilliant software engineer who loves to talk about artificial intelligence and the future of technology. He's always reading up on the latest research, and he has some truly fascinating ideas. But when he goes out with his friends, they mostly want to talk about sports and their weekend plans. Mark tries to join in, but he quickly gets bored. He feels like he's wearing a mask, pretending to be interested in things that he couldn't care less about. As a result, Mark has started to withdraw from social situations. He'd rather stay home and read a book or work on a personal coding project than go to a party where he knows he'll feel bored and disconnected. This is a common pattern for many smart people. They're not antisocial. They're just highly selective about who they spend their time with. They're looking for quality over quantity when it comes to social interactions. They'd rather have one deep, meaningful conversation with a kindred spirit than a dozen superficial chats with people who don't understand them. This brings us to another important point: the struggle to find intellectual peers. For a highly intelligent person, finding someone who is on the same intellectual wavelength can be like finding a needle in a haystack. It's not about being elitist or looking down on others. It's about a fundamental human need to be understood and to connect with people who get you. Think about it like this. If you're a professional athlete, you want to train with other athletes who can push you to be your best. If you're a talented musician, you want to play with other musicians who can match your skill level. It's the same for a highly intelligent person. They want to be around people who can challenge them, who can introduce them to new ideas, and who can engage in a lively intellectual exchange. When you're constantly the smartest person in the room, it can be a very lonely experience. You might feel like you're always the teacher, always the one explaining things to others. You long for someone who can teach you something new, who can surprise you with their insights, and who can make you see the world in a different way. This is why many smart people find solace in online communities and forums where they can connect with like-minded individuals from all over the world. In these virtual spaces, they can finally let their guard down and be themselves. They can have the deep, stimulating conversations they crave without fear of being judged or misunderstood. I remember talking to a young woman named Emily who was a member of a Mensa, the High IQ Society. She told me that, for the first time in her life, she felt like she had found her tribe. She could talk about quantum physics and ancient history without anyone batting an eye. She could make obscure jokes and references that everyone understood. For Emily, finding this community was a life-changing experience. It made her realize that she wasn't a weirdo or an outcast. She was just a normal person who happened to have a very high IQ. But not everyone is lucky enough to find a community like this. Many smart people go through life feeling like they're the only one of their kind. They might try to form relationships with people who are not their intellectual peers, but these relationships often feel unsatisfying. There's a part of them that they can never fully share, a part of them that remains hidden and unknown. This can lead to a deep and persistent sense of loneliness, even when they're in a committed relationship or have a close circle of friends. Now, let's talk about something that might seem a little counterintuitive: the link between high intelligence and mental health challenges. You might think that being smart would make you more resilient and better equipped to deal with life's challenges. But research has shown that highly intelligent people are actually more prone to certain mental health issues, such as anxiety and depression. One reason for this is that smart people tend to overthink everything. Their minds are always running, analyzing, and questioning. This can be a great asset when it comes to solving complex problems, but it can be a real curse when it comes to their own emotional well-being. They might find themselves stuck in a loop of negative thoughts, constantly worrying about the future and ruminating on past mistakes. Imagine your mind is like a powerful supercomputer. It's capable of processing vast amounts of information and running complex simulations. But if you don't give it a specific problem to solve, it can start to run amok, creating all sorts of worst-case scenarios and hypothetical disasters. This is what it can be like for a highly intelligent person who is struggling with anxiety. Their mind becomes their own worst enemy, trapping them in a cycle of fear and worry. Another reason for this link is that smart people are often more aware of the world's problems. They're more likely to be concerned about issues like climate change, social injustice, and political corruption. This heightened awareness can be a heavy burden to carry. It can lead to a sense of hopelessness and despair, which can contribute to depression. Think about it like this: if you're blissfully unaware of the problems in the world, it's easier to be happy and carefree. But if you're constantly reading about the latest scientific report on climate change or the latest news story about a human rights violation, it's hard to maintain a positive outlook. You feel the weight of the world on your shoulders, and it can be overwhelming. This is not to say that all smart people are destined to be anxious or depressed, but it is important to recognize that their high intelligence can make them more vulnerable to these challenges. And when you're struggling with a mental health issue, it can be incredibly isolating. You might feel like no one understands what you're going through, and you might be hesitant to reach out for help. This can compound the loneliness that many smart people already feel, creating a vicious cycle that can be difficult to break. Finally, let's talk about the pressure to succeed. When you're known as the smart one, there's a lot of pressure to live up to that label. Everyone expects you to be successful, to achieve great things, and to make a mark on the world. This pressure can be immense, and it can lead to a fear of failure that can be paralyzing. A highly intelligent person might be so afraid of not living up to their potential that they avoid taking risks or trying new things. They might stick to what they know they're good at, even if it's not what they're truly passionate about. This can lead to a feeling of being unfulfilled and disconnected from their true self. I once worked with a man named David who was a child prodigy. He was reading college-level books when he was still in elementary school, and everyone expected him to become a world-renowned scientist or a Nobel Prize-winning author. But David was so afraid of disappointing everyone that he ended up taking a safe and unfulfilling job as an accountant. He was good at it, but he hated it. He felt like he was living a lie, and he was deeply unhappy. This pressure to succeed can also make it difficult to form genuine relationships. A smart person might feel like people are only interested in them because of their intelligence or their achievements. They might worry that if they show any weakness or vulnerability, people will be disappointed in them. This can lead to a sense of being on a pedestal, of being admired but not truly known. It's a lonely place to be. You're surrounded by people who think you're amazing, but you feel like a fraud. You long for someone who can see you for who you are, not for what you can do. You want someone who will love you even if you're not a genius, even if you make mistakes, and even if you don't change the world. So, what can we do about all of this? If you're a smart person who is struggling with loneliness, it's important to know that you're not alone. There are millions of people out there who feel the same way, and there are things you can do to find the connection and belonging that you crave. First, it's important to accept that you're different. Your brain is wired in a unique way, and that's okay. Don't try to be someone you're not. Embrace your intelligence, your curiosity, and your love of deep thinking. Second, seek out your tribe. Look for people who share your interests and passions. Join a book club, take a class, or get involved in a community project that you care about. As we mentioned earlier, online communities can be a great place to connect with like-minded individuals from all over the world. Third, don't be afraid to be vulnerable. It's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to need help sometimes. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you give other people the chance to see the real you. And that's where true connection begins. Fourth, practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself, especially when you're feeling lonely or misunderstood. Remember that you're a valuable and worthy person, regardless of your IQ or your achievements. And finally, if you're struggling with your mental health, don't hesitate to reach out for professional help. A therapist can provide you with the tools and support you need to manage your anxiety or depression and to build a more fulfilling life. The journey of a smart person can be a lonely one, but it doesn't have to be. By understanding the reasons behind this loneliness and by taking proactive steps to find connection and belonging, you can create a life that is both intellectually stimulating and emotionally satisfying. You can find your tribe, you can be your true self, and you can experience the deep and meaningful relationships that you so richly deserve. Remember, your intelligence is a gift, not a curse. And with a little bit of effort and self-awareness, you can learn to use that gift too. Create a life that is full of joy, purpose, and connection. You are not alone in this feeling, and the path to connection is one that is well worth walking.